and I know who stands behind Kelly the Olympian. So, really transferring over to, I don't want that to be my only identity because there's so much more. And because for my whole life, I had to be that. Yes, I absolutely made one dream come true. And I'm so grateful and thankful for that. But there's so much more of that. And so that's where I really stepped aside to the comeback kid.
Welcome back to the Live, Love, Lead podcast, a podcast designed to help you live, love, and lead well. I'm your host, April Nicole Scipio. So excited that you are joining me today for an amazing interview with my friend Kelly. You are going to love her. If you are new to the podcast, don't forget, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss all these amazing, amazing episodes. Today, I cannot wait for you to hear about a girl who is so strong and has overcome and is living out the purpose that God has for her today in her life. And you are going to love her. So, Kelly, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, April. Thank you so much for having me. And sorry for everybody. I told April, it looks like I kind of rolled out of bed today and threw my hair up. I just got back from a walk with my dog. So you are getting real vulnerable Kelly day to day.
We love that. We like real around here. You are all good. You are beautified and out. Thank you for taking the time because I know you are very busy. So I really appreciate that. Tell everyone just who you are. Introduce yourself, what season of life you're in. Just tell us, who is Kelly?
Absolutely. I am Kelly Gunter. I'm a 2014 Olympian, now retired. I was a speed skater for 25 years of my life. It's taken me around the world, upside down, inside out. I've seen all the good. I've seen all the bad. And the season of life I'm really in, I really like that question, April, is really redefining myself. Who is Kelly Gunter? And I think that's such an important question, especially now as the Olympics are going on and some of these athletes are going to retire. We really have to redefine ourselves and who we are. I want to be set out as Kelly, the comeback kid. From the very beginning, I was knocked down. I was diagnosed at a very early age with a learning disability. And I get asked a lot what the diagnosis is. And the funny answer to that question is just a simple learning disability. Not too long ago, I went and saw a neurologist, and I had asked him, and he laughed at me and he said, Kelly, it's just a simple learning disability. So that answers, that right there. And then I was in special education because of my learning disability all through my career or school. It was something that was very hard for me to accept. I always felt like I was quote unquote different, I guess, than everybody else. But then I was able to overcome on the other side of it. And then also being at a very young age, I knew I wanted to go to the Olympics. I was watching the 1994 Winter Olympics going on, and it's so funny now as I'm getting to tell my story more openly and share it. It was during the Nagano Olympics. I just think that's funny that the Japan Olympics are going on so many years later. But I was watching figure skating, Tara Kopinski, Michelle Kwan, all of them. And I knew I wanted to be on that stage someday. Now, granted, I probably maybe didn't know what the Olympic rings meant at that exact time. But I was wasted no time, and I was taken to the roller rink the very next day. And I love the jumps and spins, hair and the makeup. I am such a girly girl. Typically, maybe not today, but most days, yes, I am. But I was knocked down again. I was too fast for the music, and I couldn't hear the beat of it. Everything happens for a reason. So then I get introduced to inline speed skating. That really took me around the world in my career. I skated 10 years of that in inline, world championships, junior worlds. But sadly, it is not an Olympic sport and still isn't today. So at 19, after I graduated high school, while still kind of young, I guess, sort of say, I had to make the switch to ever making to the Olympics and learn a whole new sport all over again. So that's why I say I was kind of young. If I was going to learn a new sport, even put ice skates on my feet for the very first time, this probably need to happening soon. So then I moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, and I caught on a lot faster than I had anticipated. I tried out for the 2010 Winter Olympics. And for me, it was just a learning experience, just to get underneath my belt, because my eye on the prize was already, the next 4 years. I knew I was new. I knew I had a lot to learn. I knew I had to still figure out the sport, and the whole ice skating thing is a whole new world for me. But I actually ended up qualifying and making the 2010 Olympic team. And that childhood dream that I had dreamt of watching the 1994 Winter Olympics was just coming true. I was named to the team. I celebrated. That picture was alive in my head, the whole 9 yards. And 24 hours, I was being told I was taken off by ruling. We did an arbitration. The biggest competitor and it had come down to, she fell and got third place, even with her fall. She was still good enough for third place. But she got a reskate. And with that reskate, that's what granted her a new skate, and goes a second and a half faster than she's ever did. And that is what took me off and put her on. And in that moment, I was completely devastated. As I said, I was new to the sport. I had a lot to learn. I definitely didn't think it was fair by any sort of imagination. But I think that's where really God started to play into my life and really start to teach and tell me that, life isn't fair and it's not going to be fair. I could have, taken that and walked away from it and gone back to inline where I was at the top of my game. I was well known in that sport level. But I knew that I was set out to be more. So I let myself grieve that night, cry. But the next morning came and I went to practice the very next day as if nothing happened. And as hard as it was, yes, but I knew I had to be a fighter, and the athlete that I was going to become was going to happen right there in that moment. Because if I didn't, then I shouldn't have, went on for the next 4 years. I had told myself, in the next 4 years, nobody's going to take me off an Olympic team. I'm going to win, or I'm going to be faster, stronger, and better than I was this last 4 years. And, that's that. This isn't going to happen again. So that's exactly why my mindset was walking into practice that very next day, finishing out the season in 2010. 2.5 months later, I had a double compound fracture on my ankle. My foot was literally hanging off my leg, and I was told I would never be able to skate again to the obviously to the level that I wanted to, and then the dream of ever getting to the Olympic level. I mean, that was like out of mind, out of sight. And from that very moment on, when I was laying on the ice, sliding like a baseball player into home plate, I was freezing. I was cold. I could like feel my heart like against the ice beating. But I knew, the paramedics were coming. I knew I was going to be okay. So from that very second on, it was all mindset. And I think that's what's so important is that, God puts these moments in our life that, we think are so bad. But it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And I always say my foot hanging off my leg was probably one of the best things that I went through and got to experience, because if I didn't get to experience that, I don't think I would have been able to have such more of a story and a compelling one to be able to go through that. And that completely changed my life, where so many people, strike one, you're out, strike two. I mean, I already had two odds against me. Now what do I do? Do I keep going? Or do I, just throw in the towel right then and there? But I definitely kept going.
I am blown away. Like you are the comeback queen, girl, because you went
Thank
through
you.
so much to get to your dream
Mm-hmm.
and time after time, like just feeling like you're getting knocked down, but here you go. You're like, I'm knocked down, but I'm not out. And you get to experience this dream of being an Olympian. That is incredible. First of all, I'm so honored that I even know you. I'm like, this is so cool that I'm getting to interview you. But
Thank
you get to be an Olympian, and then at some point you decided it was time to transition out of that. Can you
Mm-hmm.
talk us through that? Like, how did you know? How did you process that? Was it a quick decision, or you knew you were going to retire, and so you started having to get in that mindset? What was that like for you to experience your dream, and now you know you're transitioning out of that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think when you know, you know. Honestly, in the last 2.5 years of my career, I was miserable. My coach and I didn't get along. I had never in 25 years of my career, never not gotten along with a coach. So this was something I've never experienced. And I worked really hard to try and find that balance and that hard line. And it just wasn't working. So I really started, going to church even before then. And I had said to myself, I don't want to just go to church and leave and go in and come out. And one of my sports psychs that I had worked with, he had said, Kelly, going, out to dinner, going to make a new friend or whatever it is, knowing your personality, that for you is like a workout. And he had maybe said that 3 or 4 years prior to me, but I always kept it in the back of my mind. And I entered a small group at my church back in Salt Lake City, and it literally changed everything. And so that for me was the process of transitioning out of skating, because I started to see life outside the circle. I started to see what true friendships were. I started to see how we prayed for one another. I mean, it was a total brand new group of girls. And I think that's what was so neat. None of us were from Utah. We were all from all over the country. And we got to meet at one place and just do life together. And that really became my community. So when I knew that the Olympics were coming up, one of my friends at church, I'll never forget, it was either a Sunday morning or a Saturday night service. She had hugged me and she goes, Kelly, something feels off. And in that moment, it was just, I felt God tell her to let me know that it was okay, that I was not going to make the 2018 Olympic team. And that was just 2 months before trials were. And I started that process 2 months before the trials. And I knew God knew that I was going to be okay. And I wasn't supposed to be there. I'm a huge believer that everything happens for a reason. And in 2018, I knew the backstory. I knew my coach and I didn't get along. I knew I couldn't go and represent our country when I wasn't in it 100% as I should be. And 2014, yes, I absolutely was supposed to be there, and that's why I was there, because it was that timing. It was, everything happened for the reason. And so I think that's so important, to have, and it's something that I, cherish forever and, grasp onto.
That is so amazing. I love how you brought up community, because we're meant to do life with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just in awe of God. I'm like, look at God. Like, he knew what your future was going to be like, and he positioned you to be surrounded by people who care about you, who support you, during that transition.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, look at God. He's just so good. And there may be people here who are listening or watching, and they feel or sense some sort of transition coming in their life. And sometimes that can be scary. Can you just speak to the importance of, if you are feeling like you're transitioning, to open up and allow people in to that process, because it can be scary letting people know, especially you're like, I don't know if it's going to work out. We go through all the thoughts.
Right.
But I think that's just the enemy trying to use fear to isolate us, when really the thing that we need to transition smoothly is that community. What words of encouragement could you say to someone who is feeling that transition, but pulling back as they're processing?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good question. So thanks for asking it. I really, my best advice is to find your community and find, who you trust and be able to share that with them, because once you do, they can pray for you and you're not going through it alone. And I think that's what is so important, is that's why I had that moment when my friend hugged me, is that nobody else knew that. And it was just a feeling that I had to be able to share and to tell. And like a world was like lifted off my shoulders and I was okay with it. And, so if you're going through a transition, stage in your life, or you don't want to share or tell anybody, I feel as if you at least tell just one person that it's okay, because they know, what you're going through. And if you want to share it with the community, they can pray for you. I definitely told my Bible studies, what I was going through, and I was maybe at a love of skating, and, they are still in this journey with me today. And that's what's so important, about community and opening up, because you never know, who else needs to hear your message, or who else is struggling right there, in that position. And, that's why it's so important to have friends that, support you. I like to call them my spiritual friends, because they, are walking through life with you, and to be able to guide you. And, when things don't go right, they're still there as well for you.
I love that. Thank you so much. That is just such wisdom there. And so you had that community, you had that support as you're processing this transition, you're retiring. But then was there any moments where you felt unsupported? And you don't have to say by who, but just in general, did you ever feel some resistance from people who you may have expected to support you, or you thought they would and they didn't?
Absolutely. And I'm going through that process right now, to be honest with you, because I moved away from Salt Lake. So that was a huge thing for me. That was a total God leap of faith that he led me here to Ohio. And to lose that, I mean, I still have that. I was just emailing my pastor last week about something, so I still know that they're there, but I'm alone, as a sense, I don't have that community. I'm alone, and the ones that I thought would be close to me as like a mother or a brother, they don't understand. They don't get it, because they're just different. So ever since retirement, I've really just felt alone. We go from one extreme to the other. I'm in my early 30s, and, for 25 years of my life, I've always had a coach telling me what to do, how to do it, where to go. Someone believed in me, someone pushed me, and now it's crickets. Now I have nobody. So that was really hard for me. So to go through that process, wasn't easy, but I grasped onto the fact, that, God is still there and my community is still back there. And that's what is so important to realize that. And I think that's where I've really become true within myself and know who I am, because I have that capability of my faith that is stronger than anything. So I look at it as, healthy boundaries are so important, and you only let in who you want to let in. And I really have learned that the last few years of my one, career, and then just two, my life. And I don't say I have a small circle of friends, but I definitely choose who I let in, and wisely, because I know my family may be behind me, but not behind me in 100% way that that is a good way, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you for being so transparent, because I know that there are people who can relate to that. They are expecting support from others, but they don't feel that. So you have to have practical ways to build yourself up, right? And support yourself, even though, yes, you want people to support you, but there are moments when you have to encourage yourself in the Lord, right? So I don't know, are there any practical things that you do, if not daily, but from time to time, like when you are just wanting to give yourself that boost? And I think this is important, because even if someone is in a situation where they are supported by others, you can't only live off the support of others. Like, because there will be moments when God calls you to do something that people aren't going to understand. That's just when you sign up to follow Jesus, you just sign up for having him tell you things that people are like, wait, what? What? And you have to know how to encourage yourself and support yourself. What are some practical things that maybe you do when you need that boost?
I really look down and deep within myself, and you have to be your own biggest cheerleader at the end of the day. You have to be there for yourself, and self-talk and self-motivation is everything. And, when I need that boost of confidence to get going, whatever X, Y, and Z is, that's where I'll go. Or I'll throw in, I just got back from a walk, and I was listening to last week's message of my church back home. So, that's where I really find that boost and that connection, because it's still there. And I think that is what is so powerful. And that's what keeps me moving every day, is to be reminded of myself, of who I am, and to dig deep of being my own cheerleader.
I love that. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about identity, because, when we spend a lot of our time or a long season doing one thing, it becomes a part of us. That's just natural, right? And then when we transition from that, we have to figure out how to not have our identity in the thing that we're no longer doing, right? So I'm just curious for you, how has that process been for you, having to, you're starting a new journey that God has for you. And as you let go of the old season of your life, not letting go of yourself because your identity is in that thing, but being excited about who you are today and what God has for you. Can you kind of speak to that? If someone, has their identity in something, and not that it's bad, you just identify with it because it's a part of you, but you're having to release from that. What does that look like?
Yeah, for me, it really is hard, to be honest with you, because I know, who I am, and I know who stands behind Kelly the Olympian. So, really transferring over to, I don't want that to be my only identity, because there's so much more. And because for my whole life, I had to be that. Yes, I absolutely made one dream come true. And I'm so grateful and thankful for that. But there's so much more of that. And so that's where I really stepped aside to the comeback kid, because truly, if you look at my story, that's who I am. That's what I want my identity to be, because I wasn't an Olympic gold medalist. I wasn't, X, Y, and Z. I was just a girl who made a dream come true. And I'm really becoming who I am because of my story, and because it's deeper than just the Olympics. And I always say that's just a title. It's not an entitlement. I am absolutely no better than anybody else in this world. And that's what I hold on to, is that, I'm human, just like you and I, April, just like the rest of the world, so if you're going through that process, I think it's really important to find what gravitates towards you and what means the most to you. And for me, meaning the most to me is just honestly my whole entire story. And that's why it's hard to, to get out there, because the Olympics gets me in the door, but the story is what I want people to hold on to, not what gets me into the door. So, just really hold on to what is meaningful for you and yourself and what you love, because when you're passionate about it, that's what people will grasp and get to. So I know it's maybe a struggle, but you'll get there, I know.
I love it. Any final words of encouragement for anyone who is really about to enter a season of transition? And, there's so much we can learn from your story and your process. Thank you so much today for everything you shared. Just any final, if someone's like, oh, I know God's calling me to transition, but they're too scared. They're holding on to their current season when they know God's like, I've got something else for you. How can you encourage them today?
Yes. Oh, I take a deep breath in that one. That's one of my favorite questions. Pray about it, and pray about it. And I say that as if I had said, I'm never going to leave Salt Lake City because I'm never going to leave my church. Like it was just, there was a period after that. There was no questions, nothing to be asked. And I prayed about it because I knew Salt Lake wasn't my forever home. I knew I wasn't supposed to be there as much as I loved my community. I loved my church and I wanted to go to the South. And then all of a sudden, God took a leap of faith for me and he said, no, I'm going to take you to Ohio. And it was just a complete leap of faith. I'm not saying it was not scary. I said I would never come back to this state where I had once lived. And here I am. So my best advice is, and final words are, pray about it. And it's scary, but there's a reason why God put you there. There's a reason why he wants you to leave that season of life and to grow and to show yourself who you are, because in this process, it's also a learning process for you and I to go through that. And that's what's so important that, I really just want you to hold on to and grasp it, that we may not know why God's putting us there or wants us to leave our favorite church or community and friends and life, but there's always a reason behind it. And I think that's what is so important. So just, keep praying and keep believing in yourself and keep going.
Awesome. Kelly, you're amazing. I just love you. I love your story. And I know that everyone who is listening or watching, they love you too. Where can people go to find you, connect with you, follow your journey, all the things? Whenever you write your book, I know they're going to want to buy it. So I'm speaking that out in faith. So how can people just follow your story? Where do they go?
Thanks, April. Yes. Follow me on Instagram. It's just my name, Kelly Gunter. I'm usually on there a lot. I'm on Clubhouse here and there. If you have any questions, I'm an open book. So send me a DM. I'd love to help any way I can and be your own cheerleader. If you need me, you can borrow me. I am here to help you every step of the way. So thank you, April, so much, and love you. And thank you so much for having me on here today.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. We'll make sure to link all of your social media handles to the show notes. Can I just pray for you before we go? Would that be okay?
Please. Yes.
Awesome. God, thank you so much for this time today with my friend Kelly and for the incredible journey that you have her on. Thank you, God, that you have given her so much strength, God, to endure and overcome so many obstacles in her life. But God, I know that your word says that you make all things work together for good, for those who love you and are called according to your purpose. And Father, I know that Kelly loves you. I know she is answering the call to the purpose that you have for her. So I just pray right now that you guide her, that you give her wisdom. God, send her people across her path, God, that could continue to support her and encourage her, Father. God, continue to remind her every single day of just how much she is loved, that you love her unconditionally. Order her steps, God. Open doors for her, God, that will blow her mind. Put her in front of people, God, that she's going to be like, oh my goodness, I don't know how I got here. It has to be God. God, I'm asking you for your favor to just surround her like a shield. I pray protection over her and her home and her destiny. We love you, we honor you, we praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. I have tears in my eyes. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. It means the world to us. Don't forget to go subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Connect with Kelly. I'll be looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. Until then, go live, love, and lead well. Have an amazing day.